And now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are very grateful to Special Representative Mr. Qassem Salameh for his detailed but also very worrying briefing about the developments of the military and political situation in Libya. We thank Ambassador Schulz for the update on the work of the Sanctions Committee. We positively appreciate the work of the delegation of Germany as the chair of that committee. Mr. President, the report by Mr. Salameh precisely demonstrates that the military and political situation in Libya is continuing to deteriorate. The number of killed and wounded is growing, the number of IDPs as well. Urban infrastructure is being destroyed. Terrorists are raising their heads without mentioning the worsening problems of migration. New dividing lines are being created, and the risk of the country disintegrating altogether is appearing. What is taking place is the result of the destruction, and let's say this once again directly, the destruction of Libyan statehood as a result of well-known events that took place in 2011. Libya should be a reminder of the unacceptableness of continuing geopolitical experiments. From the very outset of the conflict, we have been calling for the focus of international and regional efforts to be the unification of Libya, including with an aim of consolidating the fight against terrorism. Today, the situation in this area is much worse. Jihadists are beginning to move from Iraq and Syria, and this could turn Libya into one of the major bases of terrorism in North Africa. Russia has and never will have and never has had a secret hidden agenda on the Libyan conflict. We support and treasure our contacts with all parties. We explain our position to them in favor of a political settlement. And we underscore to all our Libyan parties, all the Libyan parties, only the United Nations can have a leading role and its special representative, Mr. Qassem Salameh, in this settlement. Mr. President, we highly appreciate the efforts of the UN operation in Libya, the courageous, self-sacrificing work of Special Representative Mr. Salameh. We support your program for resolving the crisis, all the more so because it includes a key element which we have been calling for many years, namely the need for an urgent consolidation of the positions of external players. The briefing of the Special Representative, just like the recent statement in Security Council consultations by Mr. Grandi, demonstrate that migrants find themselves in an awful situation, to put it mildly. We have already said many times that in order to resolve the problems of migration, we need to fight not the migrants themselves, but rather to focus our efforts on rehabilitation and improving problematic areas. People then will return home themselves. The problem of the illegal dissemination of weapons in Libya needs to be solved, and here a comprehensive approach is needed, taking into account the fact that the current situation in this area stems from a gross violation in 2011 of the corresponding provisions of Resolution 1973. We call on all to refrain from a unilateral agenda, to unite under UN auspices to relaunch political negotiations which will allow for the country to be united and will help Libyans to develop their own state and to independently dispose of the wealth and riches of Libya. Once again, Mr. Salameh, we welcome your program for overcoming the crisis. We understand that it can only be implemented if the key external players play according to the same rules. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Agradezco al representante de la
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation